Hey church, it's Pastor John. I sent out a communication just a few weeks ago that I wanted to give you an update on. It's all about Anderson Hills and our denomination, the United Methodist Church. Here's the bottom line. Our denomination has been going through rough times for quite a while, and our administrative council, who leads our church, is giving serious consideration to whether or not the United Methodist Church is the right denominational home for Anderson Hills. So that's a really important topic, and so I want you to read that letter. We've got a link below, so please check that out if you haven't seen it. The Administrative Council is leading us through this process, and here's what we've been working on so far. First, we added some people to our team who are really helpful in helping us to discern God's will for our congregation as it relates to our denomination. So I invite you to keep the council and that entire team in your prayers as we do this important work of discernment. What we're doing right now is considering the question, do we stay in the United Methodist Church? And if not, where is it that God would call us to go? Another denomination, or to possibly independent, some type of network with other churches, or what might God be leading us to? So this is really important work. The reason we're asking these questions is because, as I laid out in the letter, we have a number of concerns with the denomination as a whole. As a denomination, we have been shrinking ever since we began, and that has increased significantly in recent years. And we have serious concerns about the long-term sustainability of the denomination. Also, and even more important, the denomination is going through a very serious struggle in terms of our core beliefs and things that matter a lot to us. How we read and interpret scripture, human sexuality, other things like this that are very significant issues in the life of the church. And so we are giving a lot of thought and prayer to this. Now you might ask, why now? Why are we having this conversation at this point as an administrative council? It's a great question. And actually, the timeline is kind of driven by our denomination because in order for churches to depart from the denomination, we have to do so, of course, according to the United Methodist rules. And there is a rule that allows churches to leave, but that rule expires here in the next year. So we have a very limited amount of time to consider that. And in fact, the work that we need to do must really be done this fall for us to be prepared as a church. The reason for this period of time in which churches are allowed to leave is because the denomination itself has realized the severity of where we're at, and that many churches are needing to leave as a result. In fact, right now, hundreds of churches have left already and are considering the possibility of leaving. And so this is our opportunity to consider whether or not that is God's will for Anderson Hills at this point. So we've come together as a council and we are considering all of this. We're going to make a recommendation late this summer or early this fall. And then we're going to have a series of small group meetings where we are going to invite you to come and to discuss this recommendation, to understand why it is that the council is recommending this and what it means for our future. In the meantime, as the council is doing its work, it's really important to me and to us as a council to keep you informed and to help you understand some of the things we're considering. We talk about things like how pastors are sent to the church, what the beliefs are of the denomination, around things like the finances and how all these kind of things work, property ownership, who owns the property, and how did we get here a little bit longer term as a denomination. So I'm going to be addressing these in a series of videos. In fact, we're going to put one out each Friday here this summer just to keep you informed. Also, we've set up an email address to make it really easy for you to communicate with this team. Maybe you have questions that you'd like to ask, or maybe you have concerns you'd like to share with the team or things that you would like for them to consider. If so, please email denomination@andersonhills.org and we'll be sure to get back with you. A final thing that is important for this process, in fact, it's the most important thing for this process, is that we together as a church pray for our leadership, for our administrative council, and for our pastors, that we would hear God's voice, that we would be wise, and that we would lead well through this. And for our church, that God would unite us in the midst of going through all of this process. Because I strongly believe that God will do that, and that Anderson Hills will come through this even a stronger church than we are today. And I would ask that you would pray, that you would join me in prayer that God would do just that. I'll talk to you next Friday.